right. Hi, everyone. Good evening. Welcome. My name is Olivia. I work for Or Books, which is a small, independent, radical publishing house located in the back of this bar, the Francis Kite Club. Feel free to come check out our office. It's behind the screen where you see the beautiful cover of the book that we're celebrating tonight, Search Work. A bit about Or Books. Or has been here for about 2 years at the back of this bar that we love sharing with the Francis Kite Club. We're the proud publishers of very leftist, more progressive thinkers, perhaps people that other publishers wouldn't publish. We're proud to publish people like Julian Assange, Slavoj Žižek, Norman Finkelstein, Rafat Al-Alir, and like the contributors and editor of this book, Rachel Meade Smith tonight. Rachel embodies a lot of what Or does, which is pushing up against the mainstream. She's going to tell you about her newsletter, Words of Mouth, which is a way of incentivizing and sharing with other people jobs, creative jobs that try and do better for humanity, which is really special, and we need more of that. A bit about how this book came to us, because it's really full circle and speaks to what Rachel has created through her community. I am a member or subscriber of the Words of Mouth mailing list, and Rachel posted first that she was taking contributions. I didn't submit, but apparently over 1,000 people did. And then once she went through them, that she was looking for a publisher, and I very rushedly replied and said, I work for a publishing house, can we talk about it? And we did, and it felt like a good match, and one thing led to another, and I'm sure she'll tell you a little bit more, but the designer was also someone that was part of the community, and it's been really beautiful to make this book, and it, I think, speaks to everyone, because everyone's looked for a job at some point in their life, and Rachel's done a really incredible job at compiling those voices and making them as representative as she could, along with the contributors, some of whom are tonight. But I'll hand it over to Rachel to tell you a little bit more about it. Thank you.
Hi, thank you for being here. How many people are Words of Mouth readers? Oh, wow. Okay, heavy majority, great. So Search Work is a celebration of 10 years of Words of Mouth, which I started in January 2016. Words of Mouth is a weekly newsletter that now reaches almost 75,000 people around the world, and it shares good job leads. It shares opportunities for residencies, fellowships, publication funding, as well as services, announcements, and events for and by the Words of Mouth community. And it goes out every Monday night Eastern and has for 10 years. And while it's primarily a kind of one-way information distribution service managed by me, I really do think of it as a global community of people who are in a shared experience of finding meaningful work in meaningful, sustainable, and humane work, I should say, in a world that increasingly seems to value only ambitions that are towards profit and power. And tonight, when I look around, the word community feels very appropriate. So this book is, like I said, the product of 10 years. I, about 14 months ago, saw the 10-year mark on the horizon, and I realized I wanted to celebrate this project and this community in a way that exceeded a web page with hundreds of archived newsletter links. And I knew that that would mean bringing people from the community together. So in about a year's time, we put together this incredible anthology, and that is because I brought in incredible people to help with it. I could never have done this by myself. I brought in 4 contributing editors, all pre-existing Words of Mouth readers. That was Dorothy Jabrul, Rhea Elzane, Rachel Cotter-Nailbuff, and Kay Kane Nielsen. Kay is here tonight somewhere. Yeah. Our designer, Ella Gold, who was also a Words of Mouth reader, and of course, Olivia, who brought us into the Or Books orbit. And I am so incredibly grateful that she did, because Or just completely understood the vision and the community behind this project, and they completely trusted us to do our thing. And this book is really an exercise in taking seriously the work of looking for work as an area for social, personal, cultural, even historical inquiry. It's also an exercise in bringing together many different voices, many different formats to get at the depth and complexity of an experience that most adult people on Earth will spend so much of their lives doing and really does not get much critical investigation at all. So tonight we'll hear from a few people, hearing some excerpts from their pieces, and that will be Jordan White, Jasper Nathaniel, Gabriella Rhodin, and Eduardo Lytton. And they're just going to read excerpts, so if you want to read the whole thing, you will have to purchase the book, as well as reading all of the other incredible contributions. So please buy a book before you leave if you didn't already pre-order one. Okay, and then after that, we'll have some time for question and answer and hanging out. So first, we're going to start with Jordan. So Jordan is also the first essay in the book, which is exciting, and this is Jordan's first piece in print, I believe, right? Yeah, so... Okay, so Jordan's piece speaks about the role of looking for work in her own process of identity exploration and formation, which is the central theme of the book's first chapter, Ghosts. So we'll hear from Jordan.
Hello, can everyone hear me? Hello, thank you, Rachel, for the work that you do. Everyone knows, like, this process, looking for work, is profoundly isolating and weird and whirlwind, and like every Monday when Words of Mouth drops, truly, it's like, okay, yay, maybe I can envision myself doing something, like maybe this is worth something. Truly, it's been like a light in my very long 2-year search for a full-time job. So thank you for the work that you do. For me, so many other people feel the same way. So thank you for bringing us together. I'm going to read a little bit from my piece, and just a little bit, but the context that you'll need is that I've just been added to a group chat, 50 people, all with the same name. My name, Jordan White. The neutrality of my name has always been a source of identity crisis for me. I've never felt it could contain or explain both my physical body and emotional world on its own. That, I suppose, was the point. My mother named me Jordan in the spirit of self-determination. She wanted me to define both blackness and femininity for myself, to defy anyone's assumptions of who a Jordan should be. I resented this quietly for a time. I wanted to be named after something solid, something that would connect me further to who I was and who had come before me. A place, an ancestor, a word on a piece of paper that fell before my mother's feet at a crucial point in her life. Instead, I was named for possibility. My mother wanted to free me, perhaps, from the expectations she'd endured as an eldest daughter, a black daughter, any daughter of the 20th century. Her Jordan's womanhood would be expansive and surprising. Her Jordan would improvise. By the 4th grade, my body had started to get away from me. I shot up and out, far beyond my peers. My chest and stomach seemed to swell exponentially. It felt like my skin would not contain me for much longer. I remember at a friend's birthday party being surrounded by the other 9-year-olds, all chanting and jumping around me, the Hottentot Venus, shirts raised over their heads, pants at their ankles, begging me to reveal the month's latest fruit. Show us your boobs. We want to see the pubes. Seriously. In other words, I was undeniable. My body, fleshy as it was becoming, belonged to the social world and all of its complex demands. It moved others to chant, to leer, to cower, to salivate. Still, I was growing up alongside the internet. Whatever I was becoming in the physical world, I could claim power over in the digital. I spent my adolescent years in chat rooms, on forums, alias after alias, never posting pictures. Every so often I'd Google my name, just to see if anything had come to the surface. I'd hold my breath as the results loaded. Will I belong to you all on here too? But my name's inherent untraceability afforded me some mild comfort. It could take pages to find me, and who had that kind of stamina? Online, I was all mine. Most of the other Jordan Whites in the group chat were white men. They were from Springfield, from Hamden, from Tallahassee, from Parry Sound, Ontario. Seeing them all together in this one digital box confirmed my greatest fear. Despite my body, how I've pushed and prodded and starved and stuffed it, people, at least online, would likely assume me to be a white man. This playful group of strangers, this online joke, evidently inspired my first existential quest. Who am I really, and how will I prove myself to you all? I moved and am moving still through all the Black identity crisis rites of passage. I covered my dorm room in Afrocentric posters and Pam Grier pinups. I tried to locate a plantation of origin. I twisted and braided and mixed my own hair products at the sink. I forsook my mother's high yellow family, my only family, and pestered my father about his southern relatives I'd never met. I started using slang that had no business in my highfalutin mouth. I graduated not only into a standstill job market, but into a profound national identity crisis. That's how I knew you were Black, said the woman interviewing me for the cashier position at a junk shop. She double tapped the bullet point on my resume that specified my previous internship at a Black women's magazine. I couldn't tell by your name. Wow, yes, good catch, I said. As if that wasn't exactly why I put it there. This was 2020, when people were scrambling to uplift and champion a voice like mine, even at a junk shop. I spent the following years working multiple jobs, each one procured by merit, I firmly believe, but no doubt aided by my identity-forward self-narrativizing. My body and its symbolism had found their moment, and I was more than happy to take it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan. All right. Next, we have Jasper Nathaniel. He'll read from his piece, Death Drive, which is about the bewildering dissonance of searching for work in a field he despised in order to sustain his work in a field he loved.
Well, I guess since Jordan gave a little introduction, I will too. Full disclosure, Rachel has been one of the most important people in my life for about 30 years, literally 30 years. I grew up going to her home with her parents here, and we've been in a sort of ongoing, always-on dialogue about, why we're the purpose of life, basically, for all that time. And it's funny to listen to people talk about her newsletter and what it means to them, because I get that on a direct level. That sort of therapy and counsel, and it's honestly just been like spectacular to watch this book come to light. So I just want to say I'm really proud of you. And also when I was writing this essay, I was ready to actually give up. After 2 months, I was like, I don't think I can do it, actually. And she was like, just send me what you have. And I sent her like 20 pages of a Google Doc. And in 3 days, she had like shaped it into what I thought was like a great essay. I was like, I didn't even think of this stuff. It's my words, but you somehow made it work. So it just was like very typical for our relationship. Okay, I'm just going to read the first 2 pages, and then you'll have to buy the book and read the rest. It's called Death Drive. I'm on a Zoom call discussing the growing sales infrastructure at the startup I consult for, how we supplemented HubSpot with Zoom Info and Gong, giving us visibility into each stage of the funnel, the ability to leverage historical data to forecast at both the individual and team level to plan the business accordingly, when I get a text from a source in Masaferyata. Yinon Levy had shot someone dead. I know of Levy because I was shown his picture last year while traveling through the area. It's cold up in the South Hebron Hills. The wind blows dust in your eyes. Villages are carved right into the rock, the steeper sloped areas terraced with ashlar walls to support the olive groves. Rugged land. All the hilltop settlers are dangerous, I was told, but if you see Levy on a state-gifted ATV or in a bulldozer plowing through Palestinian villages, turn the other way. Levy is a sadist, they said, who moves with fury and carries a gun. When the shock wears off, when I come to, we're talking pipeline velocity, and I realize I'm nodding along, There's no cinematic interruption. No, Jasper, are you still with us? No, I'm tracking, maybe even speaking, through a brief psychic split. When I returned to New York after my first trip to the West Bank, I intended to commit to journalism. There was no going back to startups, where world events mattered to the extent they affected supply and demand, the harmonized tariff schedule, the rising cost of capital. And the more I wrote, the more my work was recognized, the less employable I became. One day in early 2024, I used the word genocide on Instagram. I got a DM from a well-connected ex-colleague who'd once called me a no BS operator when introducing me to a future client. I'm surprised you think this is an okay thing to put out in public. What did you expect, a friend said to me. Pro-Palestine activism is like getting a face tattoo. Good luck going back to the office. I'd never met the family of a murder victim before, and in one day in Nablus, I met 3. When I got home, I needed Ambien to start sleeping again. My bank account was running low. My girlfriend at the time talked me into finding a consulting job. Maybe she thought I needed a distraction. Maybe she just wanted to make sure I could afford our trip to France. I posted on LinkedIn and reached out to a few people I'd worked with in the past. So you've come crawling back, one said. I spoke with an old manager who'd moved to a VC fund. He promised to connect me to companies that could use my services. When the introductions never came, I checked his X account. He'd become a fervent pro-Israel poster. He'd unfollowed me. He'd removed me as a connection on LinkedIn. But the real problem was pretending to care about work I now found utterly meaningless. I could still manufacture enthusiasm, but only by grinding myself and my identity as a journalist into grist that fed the mill. Each time I rattled off my startup accomplishments, another piece of me was worn away. So I entered meetings unprepared. I told myself I hoped I wouldn't get the job. But when the conversation started, I'd remembered that all I had to do was talk. The words came out of my mouth, and I saw them leaning in, and I picked up steam. This is not me, I thought. Why am I saying these things? But I was out of control, talking myself into a job I didn't want. Thank you.
Oh, wow. We got our first review this morning, and someone referred to Jasper's opening paragraph as a harrowing fake out, which I really like. Okay, so next we have Gabriella Rhodin. She will be reading from her piece about job hunting through grief, anxiety, and postpartum, but also what looking for work can teach us about hope.
Thank you. Thank you, Rachel, for welcoming me into the community. I feel like I'm pretty new here compared to some other people, but it really has been a lifeline for me. And this whole process, I am not a writer. It's not how I identify in the world. And this came at a time when I really didn't know at all how I identified in any way. I had been kind of blasted open, and this has been a real tether into something new, which I'm so grateful for, so thank you. It's gonna be a little bit of a downer, sorry about that. In the summer of 2021, my mom was given a few weeks, maybe a couple of months to live. Some months, not many, the doctor had said pointedly. Death came fast and sure, but her stubbornness was powerful, and she would claw her way through 8 months. She died in March of 2022 in the middle of the night on a quiet road in Connecticut, somewhere between morphine doses. On my birthday the same year, at the end of September, my husband Jesse and I said our final goodbye to her postage stamp of a house and rolled the gate down on a storage unit with the things no one could quite get rid of, but no one had the room for. 1 month later, we rushed my dad to the hospital, and after a few hours, the doctor told us there was a mass. His end was slower and more opaque than my mother's, but death claimed him, breath by breath, over 2 years. He died on the winter solstice of 2024 as the sun rose over Brooklyn. In this span of time, I never stopped searching for work. I applied for flexible jobs that could fit, or so I thought, into the tedious and all-consuming labor of caretaking and grieving. In actuality, this was a complete and damaging dismissal of my financial reality. a desperate attempt to claim agency over my ability to be present as my parents died. This denial felt necessary in the 8 months we spent taking care of my mom. She lived alone, so we had left our apartment in Brooklyn and moved in with her, thinking she would be gone by the end of the year. It didn't matter that we didn't have savings. We had credit cards, and after she died, we would figure it out. There was no place more important to be right now, Jesse had said to soothe our underemployed nerves as we lay petrified on the pull-out couch in my mom's little living room. His words comforted me then, but I had no grasp on how long the shadow of those choices would be, how the echoes of my mother's death, the isolation of caretaking, coupled with the looming certainty of my father's death, would land me, 2 years later, pregnant with my first child and the destabilized future I'd been trying to outrun my whole life. The last weeks of my pregnancy and first months of Elio's life were spent scribbling out budgets to see if there would be enough. There were not. I found myself breathing deeply, blowing out air purposefully to try to steady the beats of my heart. I remembered my mother doing the same when I was a child, scribbling, breathing, and I imagined us together at the table, locked in futile ritual. To lose a parent is a rupture. When both are lost, it's a complete untethering that, when coupled with nascent parenthood, folds time in on itself.
Thank you, Gabriella. Okay, our last reader will be Eduardo Lytton, and he will read from his piece, Sun Seen Through Water, both a love letter to early parenthood and a reflection on how that edifying time shaped a new approach to valuing and seeking work.
Hey everyone, super excited to be here and very excited for all the work that's been done by Rachel for this book. I also will thank Rachel and say, oh, thank you. In the middle of this, in me looking for a job and what I thought was going to be about 1 year, my mom, she was very sick and we kind of made a deal where she said, Gino, see if you can take care of them at least 1 year. And I thought it was gonna be 1 year that I was taking care of these kids and then looking for a job. It ended up being 3 years and what is probably, I think, gonna be the best 3 years of my life. But in the middle of this, I wanted to say thank you to Rachel. In addition to words of mouth, it's where I got the job that I finally did get. So thank you. It's been really good. 3 different people referred me to words of mouth. So it's a good thing going, but let me get started. All right. I approached the job search using whatever resources and new daddy know-how I had. How do you get up your New York City walk-up with all your child gear, groceries, and delivery boxes? You do it one step at a time. You put all the stuff on one step, then put the next thing on the next step up as you hold the kid in your arms. This, as long as I'm making progress attitude, fueled me and gave me hope. It was also the only way I could do it. But only being able to devote attention to about 1 job application a week, I watched several promising jobs slip away. So I called on the lesson I learned from so many months of changing diapers. Start with the most important stuff first. Get the wet wipes out of the container first. Because when you take them out, if you unfold them, they're gonna come out in one huge block. So get them out first. If you release the diaper, you'll find yourself holding 10 wipes and you'll have a kid churning and throwing poo all over the diaper table. So I spent my hyper-limited time only on jobs that really seemed worth it. With my hands full of babies or baby-related objects, I was forced to find a way to be productive without a computer. I did a lot of writing in my head. During the day while strolling, I'd copy and paste job descriptions into the Notes app and study and annotate them as we walked, one eye on the phone, another on the sidewalk. I dictated cover letters as voice notes, using my human wit and charm to overpower the AI system's program to reject me outright. When I was lucky enough to have my butt in a chair with a computer in front of me, I had to focus, edit, and act with maximum deliberateness. Every time a kid fell asleep, it was go time. I held my breath and jumped onto the computer, a free dive that could end at any moment with a cry or sudden movement of a tiny human on a monitor. If this process was going to take a little bit longer, I told myself, I might as well use it to actually build a pyramid and work on something that would last me forever. Applications became like weigh-ins. I was constantly taking stock of what was most important. Money versus magical time with the kids, new social connections in the playground, every day versus colleagues who showed me the barest of human touches. I took a job skills assessment test that reaffirmed what I knew deep down and had confirmed through my time as a dad. Learning was my currency. I gained the language to describe myself to others in my applications, my resume, my LinkedIn profile. When I finally got a few interviews and it came time to perform, I felt a new sort of underwater clarity that I could only attribute to being a dad. I remember looking past the horizon of metal and glass buildings surrounding NYU as I waited for an interview, seeking a patch of sky, trying to meditate my way into the right frame of mind. I stared out into the clouds and saw my kids' shiny-eyed faces. They were up there on the thing too, but not in a sort of like, oh my God, I have to do this for the kids or we're gonna die sort of way, but more just thinking of those moments of pure happiness and seeing things as they were. The job and everything attached to the search were just the scaffolding that let me have what I really wanted, a smiling, happy kid. Much as with diving into the uncharted waters of parenthood, the search for a job expanded into an exploration. I was looking out into a vast underwater space filled with tendrils of sunlight, hope, and electricity. It was the perfect excuse to look at myself from the outside and accept the scary, wondrous fact that there was still so much learning to do. If I could figure out, though, all these daily dad dilemmas, I could do anything. Install theater-level light fixtures and orchestrate the secret combination of knobs and levels on a lighting mixer board for a live event with 50 amped-up art school cool kids? No fucking problem, I said. As I tucked in my shirt, pushed on my taped-on Clark Kent glasses, and walked towards the door where my interviewer waited. Thanks.
Thank you to all our readers. We're going to do a little question and answer session. So I guess if all of the readers could come back up here, we're just going to stand, and I hope that's not weird. And yes, I guess folks can, what do you think, Olivia? Raise their hand, and we're not going to give you a mic, so you're going to have to shout your question. This is my dad.
This is her dad.
Yeah, I had. Oh, I see. I had been thinking about how if I wanted to expand the newsletter in some way to allow for a dialogue with members of the community. I know things were getting really rough out there. I have a lot of writers on the list, and I actually wanted to give people a place to publish. I started out thinking about that. I was like, maybe I can start some kind of residency where I publish every month from someone from the list or something like that. But then I realized that the anniversary or the birthday or milestone of 10 years was coming up, and I thought, actually, this is a perfect opportunity to make an artifact that can bring people into dialogue on pages and then sustain a dialogue in the world that wouldn't require me to have a series that I had to continue forever. And I already have one forever project, which is the newsletter, and I didn't want another one. I have a child too. Yeah, she's right there. yeah, so I guess that's how it came to me, and I acted on it very quickly because I know that if I overthink things, I won't do them. But if I put them out into the world immediately, I'll have no choice but to act on them and follow them up. So, yeah, that's what happened.
I can start because I have a very obvious answer to this. No, but I wasn't. Okay, never mind. What the reason this piece is called Death Drive, as I get to later, is that there's a point where I start questioning: did I choose to write about Palestine to kill my career as working in startups because I was so miserable? Was it like I feel so sincere and passionate about what I write about, but it was just undeniable that it was cannibalizing my real career, which actually made money. And I remember when we talked about this, I was like, this is the final dagger. I'm now announcing I don't give a shit about working at startups, and I hope that everybody reads this so they'll never hire me again. So that was actually the reason I wanted to write mine.
I am not a writer. I'm not a writer. And what made me do this? Desperation, honestly. It was a really awful day when I got the prompt, when I got the email. And I was just like at my wit's end. The baby wouldn't sleep. There were no jobs to be had. Like everything was bad. Oh, sweet. Yeah, it was like that. That's exactly what it was like. Yes, sweet. Oh, honey. But everything turned out really well. It all worked out really, really well. The light came. It was all good. I think that for me, I put up a lot of barriers to trying things and doing things and claiming authority over any kind of ability. And I wanted to try to not limit myself. And I wanted to just submit the damn thing and submit some thoughts and see what happened. And she said yes, and I was shocked. And I'm really glad that she did, because I was really tired in that moment of limiting myself. And it felt really good. Yeah.
I actually do identify as a writer, but like many writers don't. I find a lot of reasons not to publish or like go for publishing my own writing. And primarily my work is as an editor. So I think there are a lot of ways that I self-edit, and that prohibits me from publishing my own writing. But honestly, like just feeling trust and safety within the community that Rachel has built. Like by that point, I had applied to so many jobs through words of mouth. I found like a screenwriting class, a career coach, a this, or that. Like I have just spent so much time with the space that Rachel has curated. So then when she put out a call for pitches, I was like, I had felt more comfortable submitting to this than I couldn't find a reason not to. And it's very easy for me to find a reason not to. So that's why, just again, speaking to Rachel and the community she's built.
So for me, it was super fortuitous. I had already been writing this. I weirdly got into the job search process as like a self-improvement thing, and kind of similar to like what Rachel was saying, how this book came about. Like, I didn't think people were talking about like my situation enough, and so it was gonna be a LinkedIn post, and I had it like ready, and then this came up, and I was like, oh my god, and it's like gotta do it, and then the other thing that happened too was like, I don't remember exactly what happened, but I think I wrote and somehow it didn't get to Rachel, and it was, yeah. And I was so bummed I didn't hear anything. And then like I heard afterwards, and I was just like, it's supposed to be in the book. I don't know. I felt a very like a strong connection to it and really wanted it to be him. But I identify as a writer, but I've had other work published, but this is the first one that I got paid for. So. Since I'm here, and I'll just continue. Uh, I'll say that it was a much longer process, but it took however long it took. It got me to where I'm at right now. It was very hard. I think things didn't happen the way I wanted them to. The market and everything else. There was an incident with like a bad reference, something weird that happened. But I'm happy too because I learned so much about myself. And it was a big break from before where I used to work and really identified with being productive. And I think with kids and with this job search process, it's completely different now. I'm motivated by something completely different. And it's just my whole outlook has changed completely. And so I'm anxious to share that with other people, even if it's on like a bigger level or just something about like, hey, this is how you optimize your resume and nerdy things like that.
Well, on a personal level, I mean, when I called it a psychic split in the essay, like I really mean that. I mean, I feel just utterly disconnect. The two worlds feel so different from one another. I can't find any overlap. I never talk about one when I'm in the other. And it was like very weird to try to synthesize it in the form of an essay. And so to me, it felt like, I don't want to call it therapeutic, but it's like an important like artifact for me of like, okay, I've said my piece about how I existed in these two radically opposed worlds. But then I read the review today, which said about my essay that it's something about how it like, even if you're not like reporting from the West Bank, you still can relate to actually caring about things in your life and then having work, which you don't care about for a lot of people. And that was the story of my career for, 15 years before I got into journalism, basically. So I would like to think that it will speak to people who, are experiencing some version of that, which is probably most people in this room. It's most people I know, certainly. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that split, I'm a performer. I've always needed a job. Those two things don't go together very well. I think I've really tried. I've also been really stubborn about what I do and don't want to do, and communities I do and don't want to be a part of. And that hasn't been great for my bank account, but ethically I'm solid. But I think that this was a really necessary exercise coming out of just the batshit few years of my parents dying. I didn't have a lot of resilience. I didn't have a lot of muscle left. And I think this was not an easy process because when I started writing, I wrote like 1,000 pages. And poor Dorothy, who was my editor, I was like, I'm so sorry. I haven't started writing about this yet. And I don't know, there's a lot to say. And she really helped me like sculpt it. And that muscularity, engaging that muscle of this is something I want to do and to say, and I want to be clear in what I'm saying. That was a really valuable process for me to move through. And I think becoming a mom and trying to figure out the muscularity you need to have what you want in your life while needing a job, while wanting to make art, while wanting to bake something every once in a while, whatever, see a show. It's like you need this, muscularity is the only word. And this was really a very clear encapsulation of that process and what it needs to be, how I need to kind of reclaim and claim my life again and again as I move through it.
That was the first time I've heard anything. But the answer is yes. I mean, like, I don't know. I feel like I'm the main character of my own life, and as all of us are, I've learned. And I have felt like my story is singular, not because it's actually special, but just because it's mine. But again, reading that review and then hearing these stories, there's like connective threads in all of it, which is like, how do we, like, life is complicated and so hard, and like, how do you reconcile that with the fact that you have to go and make money? It's just like it really is a universal thing, and unless you're born into to billionaire parents. But it really is a universal thing, and I think that it's about time, frankly, to give Rachel even more credit here, that like we acknowledge the search work basically, and work in general, and what it does to our psyche, especially as the world's the world goes to wherever it's going, and so many people are despairing, and you still have to find a way to make money. It's been great just in this 20 minutes to hear other stories that I feel connected to.
Yeah, I think something that's so interesting about, I guess I wrote this now almost a year ago. Does that make sense? And I've been still looking for a job since then. So it's like, if I were to respond to that prompt now, it's really interesting to like have this piece as a marker in time, because I wrote it also only a few months after I'd moved back in with my parents. I was in a specifically like angsty, moody vibe with it, and since then I've just like had so many different flavors and versions of like this. I said it before, like profoundly, I don't even know, something experience. It's just so interesting to like reflect on like how many times I've felt completely hopeless, and then how many times I've reinvented myself in my own mind and like had no hope for my future, and then had a hope for an entirely new future. So it's like to have it in print as this marker in time of what I thought about the process then, and to know that like I'm still doing it. It at least has, it's been a nice reminder of like it's been grounding to know that this is like it's okay for that to be something that I'm ruminating on, and that everyone else is, and it's just kind of it's a funny snapshot to have. I almost couldn't read it. I did not read it again until like 2 days ago, because I felt so like reading your diary. I just felt, again, I wrote it in my childhood bedroom, so I was very like, I had such a specific mood when I wrote it that was almost too hard to look at. And now I have so many new thoughts about this topic, and I think it's just so lovely as an artifact. Yeah, to have this as a topic to keep meditating on, and hopefully one day I will get a full-time job.
So I think in answering that question, I would think of like what the common threads are for the search work, and thinking of the title, and just in this process, it seems like something that just is very scarring and very hard, and it has a lot of pressure. But I think a lot of it is, I don't know, it can be kind of like, it doesn't have to be that way. And so it's like, I would say like the best comparison is, and this sounds like a commercial, but it's kind of like saying like the Words of Mouth newsletter is just a newsletter. And it's like, for me, that was something that is, the big difference is it's curated, and there's a human behind it, and there's someone who's like really thought of this, and it's positive, and it's something that made me sort of rethink the whole process. I think there's what happened when I was doing it, and I was like, it doesn't have to be this hard. I can choose to look at this as something that like I think will shape me, and what can I take, what are the good things I can take from this and sort of apply them to my life. But yeah, I think that, yeah, similarly the newsletter, something like that too, and it's because it's a way of thinking because there's this human here. So thank you again.
I want to just say something else about the newsletter real quick, actually, to reframe it for some people. Yeah, good. Okay. I mean, I was looking for a job for years, and I was using the newsletter the way it's, you know, in the most practical way. But even in times when I'm not looking, I still read it every week, and actually, what I find is that, like, you know, there's a lot of just sort of depressing aspects of this, and I'm sure like most essays have that. But it also is so fun to like imagine yourself in these like parallel universes where you did like there's one that I always think about, which was I think last year, it was librarian at Philip Roth's personal library in Newark. And I was just like imagining myself like maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll go be the librarian in the Philip Roth personal collection in Newark. And somebody got that job, presumably, probably from your newsletter. So yes, like, you know, it's all very bleak. You know, we are all, you know, slaves to the man. But there is something just really hopeful and exciting too about this, if you look at it a certain way. And the newsletter, for me, really is like conducive to that. So I would just encourage you to read every job and imagine yourself in some of them. It's kind of fun.
We have one more? Yeah, go for it.
So the question is, what do I think people need in this arena in today's moment? This is Petra. Well, I think I'll say what I always say, which is hope, because that's what keeps people going. And there are people who just stop. And I see these stories more and more, actually, of people being like, I'm opting out. And frankly, I don't know how they're going on. But people do stop looking, and hope, the idea that there is something out there for them, is what gets people to submit another application and you know, go to another terrible interview and do all of that. I think it's getting a little bit more complicated now because there really is less available now. There are fewer good things to post every week at this moment in time in the economy. And while I want to continue to give hope, I also I think about false hope too. And I don't want the newsletter to just be like this aspirational space where people think about all the cool jobs that they could have and then never actually get one. So what people need is hope, but they also need connection. They need access, they need networks, and they need support. So people need, I mean, my dream is to start like a micro grant program that gives job hunters money to just live their lives while they're looking for work. Like, people just need a way to pay the rent while they're looking for work, because looking for work can be a full-time job. So it's things I don't necessarily have the resources to provide, but I think about a lot. And the thing I can hopefully provide is hope at the moment. Well, I guess that would be fiction, right? Yeah, there's some great fiction books out there about searching for work, and I find that most of them are sort of like surrealist, dystopian, trying to comment on the reality we all know to be true, but don't really speak about, which is that it's incredibly Kafkaesque, this experience, and fiction does a great job of capturing that. I guess this book is kind of, I wanted it to have a sort of documentary element to it. And the review that came out this morning actually opens with a snippet from a fictional account of searching for work. And I was like, oh, maybe I'll do that next. I'll write some kind of surrealist, dystopian piece about looking for work, because the topic really lends itself to it. But I don't really write fiction, so I'll probably leave that to someone else. But yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
All right, we are going to wrap up the speaking portion, but everyone is welcome to stay. There are copies of the book at the front if you haven't gotten one. And again, it's a really special, we keep saying this is more than a book. Rachel has put in an extreme amount of thought and care into curating not only the newsletter that you receive. It's nice to know that AI isn't sending you jobs even if they're receiving your applications, thanks to Rachel. So yeah, hope you pick it up. Thank you so much to all of our wonderful contributors for sharing really intimate and hard moments. And thank you all for coming. Hopefully you'll come to more Or Books events in the future too.